Om. 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 Om Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrasham Tatvamasyadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshibhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Jai Gurudev.
हरि ओम जय गुरुदेव। ओम श्री परमात्मने नमः। अथ नवमोऽध्यायः राजविद्या राजगुह्य योगो नाम। श्री भगवानुवाच इदं तु ते गुह्यतमं प्रवक्ष्याम्यनसूयवे ज्ञानं विज्ञानसहितं यज्ज्ञात्वा मोक्ष्यसे शुभात्। राजविद्या राजगुह्यं पवित्रमिदमुत्तमं प्रत्यक्षावगमं धर्म्यं सुखं कर्तुमव्ययम्। अश्रद्धाना पुरुषा धर्मस्यास्य परन्तप अप्राप्य मां निवर्तन्ते मृत्युसंसारवर्त्मनि। मया ततमिदं सर्वं जगदव्यक्तमूर्तिना मत्स्थानि सर्वभूतानि न चाहं तेष्वस्थिता। क्षम्यतां। मत्स्थानि सर्वभूतानि न चाहं तेष्वस्थितः न च मत्स्थानि भूतानि पश्य मे योगमैश्वर्यं भूतभृन्नभूतस्थः महात्मा भूतभावनः। यदाकाशस्थितो नित्यं वायुः सर्वत्र गो महान् तथा सर्वाणि भूतानि मत्स्थानीत्युपधारयः। सर्वभूतानि कौन्तेय प्रकृतिं यान्ति मामिकां कल्पक्षये पुनस्तानि कल्पादौ विसृजाम्यहम्। प्रकृतिं अवष्टभ्य विसृजामि पुनः पुनः। भूताममिमं कृत्स्नम् अवशं प्रकृतेर्वशात् न च मां तानि कर्माणि निबध्नन्ति धनञ्जय उदासीनवदासीनम् असक्तेषु कर्मसु मदाध्यक्षेण प्रकृतिः सूयते सचराचरम् हेतुनानेन कौन्तेय जगद्विपव हेतुनानेन कौन्तेय जगद्विपरिवर्तते. So yesterday we have seen in Rajavidya, Rajavidya and another. I will just repeat the third shloka and then we will start with the avyayam. And we will just browse through the headline. Verse number 3. I think in the second verse only it is. Yeah, Shamatam. राजविद्या राजगुह्यं पवित्रमिदमुत्तमं प्रत्यक्षावगमं धर्म्यं सुसुखं कर्तुमव्ययम्. This is the king of all knowledge, the king of secrets, the greatest purifier, directly appreciated, not opposed to dharma, easy to accomplish and imperishable. Why is this called Rajavidya? Because it is self-shining. It resolves all divisions. This is the only thing you can call Vidya. This knowledge is Rajavidya because it gives one the greatest satisfaction. This Vidya is also considered to be the greatest secret. Rajaguhyam. Atma Gnana is the greatest purifier. Dharmyam enjoined by Shastra. Dharmyam never opposed to Dharma. Susukham kartum. Pratyaksha avagamam. Avayavam. Kshamyatam avyayam. Knowledge is never lost. I think this was the last paragraph, right? So I will read the avyayam part. The vastu of that knowledge is imperishable, avyaya. The gnana vritti is perishable, vyaya. But atma gnana is avyaya because the knowledge is as true as its object. Atma is not subject to time. It is nitya. So knowledge of the Atma is also nitya. Since the object of knowledge is myself, and because it is nitya, I do not require memory to retain the knowledge. I can remember 100 different things, but never the Atma because I am that Atma because of which all memory takes place. If I am ignorant about that self, I need only have that ignorance destroyed. The knowledge that takes place is avyaya because it is myself and I can never lose sight of myself. When I see the world, I am Sat Chit Ananda. When I do not see the world, I am Sat Chit Ananda. I do not need to repeat it to myself. The words are meant to reveal, not for repetition. Sat is a lakshana to understand that the Atma is not time bound, Chit is a lakshana for understanding that the Atma is not subject to ignorance. That it is Ananda Swarupa is to show that the Atma is Ananda, free from any limitation. These words are used to convey the knowledge of the reality and not for japa. We are not invoking the grace of the Satchit Ananda by saying Satchit Anandoham. If I repeat these words, I try to see the implied meaning of Sat, of Chit, and of Ananda. It is another type of Shraddha leading to Nididhyasana. Another question can be asked here. Suppose a jnani has a thrombosis in the area of the brain which stores memory. When he regains consciousness, he has no memory of his own name or the people he knew. He previously knew all the Upanishads and now he remembers none of them. How can you say this knowledge is avyaya? Will he know he is Satchitananda? Uh, is my voice breaking too much? Because I'm getting notification. Is it breaking too much? Please do let me know.
Yes, it is breaking. Little bit, you please repeat the last 3-4
Yeah,
sentences, please.
yeah. Stop me if it is very frequent. Okay. Another question can be asked here. Suppose a jnani has a thrombosis in the area of the brain which stores memory. When he regains consciousness, he has no memory of his own name or the people he knew. He previously knew all the Upanishads and now he remembers none of them. How can you say this knowledge is avyaya? Will he know he is Satchitananda? Yes, he will. He will not remember the words, but since his original ignorance is gone, there will be no more birth for him. It is like the situation in sleep. If you have understood that you are Brahman when you are asleep, that knowledge is not available to you. That does not mean the ignorance has come back. Similarly, here, the Antahkarana is not functioning as it should. But once he has gained the knowledge, he no longer has any self-ignorance. So there is no question of his returning to this world. That knowledge is avyaya because the result of it is yourself, which is avyaya. There is no question of it being lost. The description of this knowledge is not really a praise. If you introduce me to a very rich man saying that he can buy this town, you are not flattering him. It happens to be true. Similarly, the words that are used here to describe this knowledge, such as Rajavidya, Rajaguhyam, Pavitram, Uttamam, Pratyaksha Avagamam, Susukham, Kartum, are all true descriptions of this knowledge. In fact, all these words are not enough. Yeah, Kshamyatam, Susukham Kartum is a one word. Susukham Kartum. I will repeat once again the last line. Similarly, the words that are used here to describe this knowledge, such as Rajavidya, Rajaguhyam, Pavitram, Uttamam, Pratyaksha Avagamam, Susukham Kartum, are all true descriptions of this knowledge. In fact, all these words are not enough. No matter what we say, we always fall short of the Lord. Bhagavan is never flattered, and whatever you say about this knowledge of him is always less than what it is. It deserves all this and a little more. Then why are all these words used? Only to make Arjuna and the other students who read this more attentive. After hearing all this, Arjuna will be all attention and ready to listen. That is the purpose. Moreover, by all these words, the nature of the knowledge is told, and to know about the learning is a part of the learning. Most of the problems in the spiritual field are that people do not know exactly what they are seeking. Not understanding the nature of this knowledge, they are looking for some extraordinary experience which will leave them entirely transformed. In short, they are looking for an event to take place. The self is not an event. It is something because of which all events take place. That is why the nature of this knowledge has to be told. You do not have to do something or transform yourself in order to become Brahman. That is why I use the example of the rich man. If you are rich, all you have to do to lose your sense of being poor is to discern that you are rich. For that, you must be ready to listen. If one is conditioned being a pauper, it is difficult even to listen. I repeat, as there was a breaking of voice, you do not have to do something or transform yourself in order to become Brahman. That is why I used the example of the rich man. If you are rich, all you have to do to lose your sense of being poor is to discern that you are rich. For that, you must be ready to listen. If one is conditioned to being a pauper, it is difficult even to listen. Take the case of a man who has been poor from birth. If he suddenly comes into an inheritance that makes him rich, it is going to take him a while to get used to the fact that he is a rich man. He is very much used to considering himself a pauper. His grandfather was a pauper, his father was a pauper, his maternal grandfather was also a pauper, his brother is a pauper, all his friends are paupers. Naturally, when you tell him he is rich, is he going to believe it? He will think you are deluded and will continue to beg. In the same way, as far as happiness and fulfillment are concerned, we all think that we are paupers. We always beg for happiness at the altar of life, waiting for the hands of chance to shape a moment of joy. We keep on praying or manipulating so that some situation will become so conducive that we are happy for the moment. And we can never be sure that even after all our manipulating, we are going to be happy. We can be so exhausted that we cannot even enjoy what we worked for. This is the lot of a pauper. So, when one is told one is Ananda, limitless, Kshamyata, when one is told one is Ananda, limitless, fullness, etc., it is too much even to believe. To make him stop and listen, what we call Shraddha or trust is required. And it takes a lot of Shraddha. After introducing the subject matter as Rajavidya and Rajaguhya, now Krishna says that gaining this, you will be released from bondage. Therefore, you have enough reason to have Shraddha in the pursuit of knowledge. One must have Shraddha in both the nature of the knowledge and the result in order to listen. That is why they both have been told in these two verses. In the next verse, to enhance the Shraddha, Bhagwan explains what one misses if one does not have Shraddha. I think this also we had done yesterday. अश्रद्धधाना पुरुषा धर्मस्यास्य परन्तप अप्राप्य मां निवर्तन्ते मृत्यु संसारवर्त्मनि. Those people who have no faith in this knowledge, Arjuna, not gaining me, return, remain on the road of samsara, which is fraught with death. I repeat, those people who have no faith in this knowledge, is self-knowledge, Kshamata. Those people who have no faith in this self-knowledge, Arjuna, not gaining me, return, remain on the road of samsara, which is fraught with death. Krishna addresses Arjuna as Parantapa, the one who destroys enemies, warrior. Ashraddhana Purusha, one who has Shraddha called Shraddhana, and the one who does not have Shraddha is called Ashraddhana. Shraddha is giving the benefit of doubt to the veracity of words of the Shastra and the teacher regarding the nature and result of this knowledge. I have Shraddha in the nature of this Atma Jnana, self-knowledge, that the self is identical with Brahman, the cause of creation. I repeat as there is a breaking of voice. I have Shraddha in the nature of this Atma Jnana, self-knowledge, that the self is identical with Brahman, the cause of creation. Even though I have not yet understood this, I believe that what the Shastra says is true, and I have Shraddha in the result of this knowledge, which is freedom from any sense of bondage. If I have understood properly, I would not require Shraddha. But until I understand, I need Shraddha so that I can pursue this knowledge. Asya dharmasya. The word dharma has a number of meanings. It is used in the sense of knowledge, duty, the order of Ishvara, religion, and also in the sense of a property or nature of a thing. Therefore, whenever this word is used in order to understand its meaning, we have to see the context. Here, the word dharma means atmajnana, self-knowledge. This is because in the previous verse, the word dharmya was used to introduce this knowledge. There we have seen that this word dharmya meant that it is enjoined by the Shastra and also that it was not opposed to dharma. The one who has this knowledge is not going to express himself against dharma. So this knowledge is called dharma. In this verse, Bhagavan is talking about Ashraddhanas, the people who have no Shraddha either in the nature of the knowledge or its result. Because of this, they cannot even begin to pursue this knowledge. For a person who has Shraddha, the Shastra is a means of knowledge, pramana. This Shraddha that the Shastra is a pramana is very important here. For a Nastika who does not look upon the Shastra as a means of knowledge, there is no punya or papa. There may be people who are very ethical in spite of this lack of Shraddha. But generally, a person who does not have Shraddha in the Shastra will have a tendency towards Papa Karma because his whole pursuit will be directed towards his own comfort. Happiness is equated to satisfying the senses. After all, the senses will age anyway. Even if a person lives a very disciplined life, the senses will still age. After 70 years of age, sight and hearing will still decline. So what is the difference? There is an interesting statement by a total materialist who has no Shraddha in anything other than what is available to his senses. He says, in breath, feed the senses and enjoy yourself as long as you live. If the body goes to ashes, who will reap the results of its action? The footnote says, Yavat vet sukham jivet runam kritva ghritam vet basmi bhutasya Devasya Punaragamanam Kutah. What is the Lord those who have such confusion? The Lord says, Aprapya mama, not gaining me. Mrityu samsara vartamani vartante. They returning to the cycle of birth and death. There is no doubt about whether these people reach Parmeshwara by recognizing the Atma moment. It is not possible. When they have no Shraddha, even in Punya, Papa, Dharma, Adharma, where is the question of their seeking identity with Parmeshwara? Not gaining this, what happens to a person? Mrityu samsara vartmani nivartante. They come back to the cycle of life and death. The word nivartante has two meanings. They come back or they remain. Mrityu samsara is really mrityu yukta samsara. This is a compound in which the middle word is dropped. It means it is a samsara which is fraught with death, mrityu. Death is coupled with birth. So this is a samsara that is fraught with death and change. Even empires which once flourished have all been leveled. All that remains are few remnants beneath the earth, some pots, some coins, etc. And the demolition squad is none other than Lord Mrityu, time. Vartamana means road, the road through which you reach pain, because we are talking about the one who does not believe. Even Swarga is within samsara, but here he is talking about Ashraddhanaha Purushaha, the people of no Shraddha at all, and such people are on those routes which lead them to a place of pain called Naraka and births in lesser wombs like those of animals, etc. In these tracks, they remain Mrityu Samsara Vartmani Nivartante. This particular verse is said only to create Shraddha. The first two verses praise Atmagnana as Rajavidya to positively create Shraddha. This verse tells how much you miss if you do not have Shraddha in this knowledge. So we had done till here yesterday. Once again, with the grace of Bhagwan, we repeated the Shraddha aspect. So may this Shraddha remains. Having drawn Arjuna's attention, Lord Krishna begins the topic of this chapter in a very big way. I think there is a constant notification of internet instability. Please do let me know if there is, I have to repeat any paragraph. Having drawn Arjuna's attention, Lord Krishna begins the topic of this chapter in a very big way. Maya tatamidam sarvam jagadavyaktamurtina matsthani sarvabhutani nachaham teshvavasthitah. Maya, by me, avyaktamurtina, whose form cannot be objectified. Idam sarvam jagat, this entire world, tatam, is pervaded. Sarva bhutani, all beings, matsthani, have their being in me. Nacha aham, and I am not. Teshu avasthitaha, based in them. This entire world is pervaded by me, whose form cannot be objectified. All beings have their being in me and I am not based in them. I forgot to read the Sanskrit word. Maya avyakta murtina idam sarvam jagat tatam sarva bhutani matsthani nacha aham teshu avastitaha. This entire world is pervaded by me, whose form cannot be objectified. All beings have their being in me, and I am not based in them. It is important to note here that in this and the following verses, the word bhuta, being, is used in the sense of jiva. The word bhuta also covers the entire world, jagat. When it is said that the jiva is created, sustained, and destroyed, one should know that by jiva is meant an embodied being. The jiva, being non-separate from Atma, is never created or sustained or destroyed. But the subtle and physical bodies, born of subtle and gross elements, are created, sustained, and destroyed. So for the jiva, creation, sustenance, and destruction are only with reference to these bodies. At the destruction of the entire Jagata, which includes all bodies of all jivas as well as the Jagat become unmanifest. From this unmanifest state, when all these become manifest, that manifestation is called creation. As long as he does not recognize his identity with Ishvara, this process of manifestation and unmanifestation continues for the jiva. So beautiful. So here Bhagwan has said the secret of the creation. I'll just repeat once again. The jiva, being non-separate from Atma, is never created or sustained or destroyed. But the subtle and physical bodies, born of subtle and gross elements, are created, sustained, and destroyed. So for the jiva, creation, sustenance, and destruction are only with reference to these bodies. At the destruction of the entire Jagat, which includes all bodies of all jivas as well as the Jagat become unmanifest. From this unmanifest state, when all these become manifest, that manifestation is called creation. As long as he does not recognize his identity with Ishvara, this process of manifestation and unmanifestation continues for the jiva. Maya jagad vyakta murtina tatam idam sarvam. The Lord says, this entire world is pervaded by me. There is an adjective to me, avyakta murtina. A form or the truth of a given thing is called murti. Avyakta murti is a form that is beyond objectification. Something that cannot be objectified may be hastily construed as non-existent. So that there will be no such problem, Bhagwan has used the word murti. Avyakta murti is the one who exists and is available for appreciation. That is me, and by that me, this entire creation is pervaded. It is not Krishna's body that is pervading everything, but his nature, real nature, parobhava. When Krishna says here, Maya, by me, he uses the first person, and that refers to the real being, Sat Chit Ananda. By me, that is Brahman, which is Sat Chit Ananda in the form of existence, consciousness, not limited by time, space, or any object. This entire world is pervaded. Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat. Matsthani sarva bhutani. Things that are born are called bhutas. Because they are born, they are subject to change. Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apaha, Prithvi are all bhutas. Then out of these bhutas, a number of systems, lokas, were born. And in any loka, there are many forms of physical bodies, each with their own subtle body, all made of the five elements, the Panchabhutas, according to our five elemental model. Out of these five bhutas, subtle and gross, come all the lokas and the embodied beings within them. Together, they are called Sarva Bhutani. Even the Ahankara is included in these bhutas. All thoughts are created and have their being in one uncreated Atma. Therefore, Krishna says, Matsthani sarva bhutani. All beings have their being in me. And without me, there will be no being at all. Shankara says, anything without an existential status is not available for empirical transaction. Nahi niratmakam kinchit bhutam व्यवहाराय अवकल्पते. क्षम्यतां. नहीं निरात्मकम किंचित भूतां व्यवहाराय अवकल्पते. Brahmaraji, kindly correct me.
Nahi niratmakam kinchit bhutam vyavaharaya avakalpate. Anything without an existential status is not available for empirical transaction. Nahi niratmakam kinchit bhutam vyavaharaya avakalpate.
He introduces this sentence to illustrate an important point. All beings upon inquiry prove to be mithya. Whenever you analyze any object, it is reduced to something else and is therefore purely nama rupa. I repeat, as there is a breaking of voice, too much of breaking of voice. And without me, there will be no being at all. Shankara says, anything without an existential status is not available for empirical transaction. Nahi niratmakam kinchit bhutam vyavaharaya avakalpate. He introduces this sentence to illustrate an important point. All beings upon inquiry prove to be mithya. Whenever you analyze any object, it is reduced to something else and is therefore purely nama rupa. If we stop here, there is only a void shunya. If at the bottom of everything there is shunya, there will be no transaction, vyavahara at all. But because there is one thing that is, everything is understood as existent, space is, time is, everything is. So beautiful. I think Brahmaraji or someone else kindly take over in 5 minutes, please. Okay, I'll be going for long kriya. If you want me to repeat in the previous paragraph, please do let me know. But then one may argue there are certain things which we understand as non-existent, like the rabbit's horn. Even so, the rabbit is existent. Only the horn is not existent. And even though the rabbit's horn is non-existent, how do you know of the non-existence of the rabbit's horn? This is very important to note. To know this, there must be a person who knows. That person knows aham asmi, I am. Then he uses a means of knowledge to know that rabbits do not have horns. That rabbits have no horns is purely a piece of knowledge, and to acquire that, there must be a means of knowledge. You cannot say it is perception because eyes can capture only form and color, not non-existence. They detect presence, not absence. So the means of knowledge is not perception. Then how do you know that the rabbit's horn does not exist? It is not inference because all inference is based on perception. Nor is it a presumption. You do not arrive at the fact that rabbits do not have horns by presuming it from the fact that rabbits never hit you with their horns. You do not conclude rabbits do not hit me with their horns, therefore they do not have horns. It is not a knowledge born of perception or inference or presumption, but an independent means of knowledge called anupalabdhi, a negative means of knowledge based upon the knowledge you have. You know what a rabbit is like, but you don't really see the absence of the horn. When you question whether a rabbit has horns, you determine that it does not have horns. That is arrived at by anupalabdhi, a means of knowledge employed by the person who is existent. He uses a means of knowledge to determine the fact that the rabbit has no horn. But the fact is, the person who knows is exists. So I think Bhagwan here it is he's explaining that isness because of which the whole creation, the whole existence is there. I think this paragraph has to be repeated, right? Should I repeat the paragraph? Or it
Yes,
is
please.
self-explained? Yeah. You cannot say, repeat, but then may argue there are certain things which we understand as non-existent, like the rabbit's horn. Even so, the rabbit is existent. Only the horn is non-existent. Even so, the rabbit is existent, only the horn is not existent. And even though the rabbit's horn is non-existent, how do you know of the non-existence of the rabbit's horn? This is very important to note. To know this, there must be a person who knows. That person knows aham asmi, I am. Then he uses the means of knowledge to know that rabbits do not have horns. That rabbits have no horns is purely a piece of knowledge, and to acquire that, there must be a means of knowledge. You cannot say it is perception because eyes can capture only form and color, not non-existence. They detect presence, not absence. So the means of knowledge is not perception. Then how do you know that the rabbit's horn does not exist? It is not inference because all inference is based on perception. Nor is it a presumption. You do not arrive at the fact that rabbits do not have horns by presuming it from the fact that rabbits never hit you with their horns. You do not conclude rabbits do not hit me with their horns, therefore they do not have horns. It is not a knowledge based born of perception or inference or presumption, but an independent means of knowledge called anupalabdhi, a negative means of knowledge based upon the knowledge you have. You know what a rabbit is like, but you don't really see the absence of the horn. When you question whether a rabbit has horns, you determine that it does not have horns. That is arrived at by anupalabdhi, a means of knowledge employed by the person who is existent. He uses a means of knowledge to determine the fact that the rabbit has no horns. But the fact is, and person who knows is exists. Can someone take over, please? Hari Om.
Yes, Bella, you can carry on. I will share screen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Screen, I can continue if someone can read.
No,
And
I'll share the screen. What page are we on?
It is 90, Brahmaraji. 909.
Okay, so we are doing this, right? I will just read this one part before. I will start from here. Matsthani sarva bhutani. Am I enough audible to everyone?
Yes.
If you actually allow me, I will read from this paragraph, with this verse number 4 again. Maya tatamidam sarvam jagadavyaktamurtina matsthani sarva bhutani nachaham teshvavastitaha. Maya, by me, avyakta murtina, whose form cannot be objectified, idam sarvam jagat, this entire world, tatam, is pervaded, sarva bhutani, all beings, matsthani, have their being in me, nacha aham, and I am not, teshu avastitaha, based in them. This entire world is pervaded by me, whose form cannot be objectified. All beings have their being in me, and I am not based in them. It is important to note here that in this and the following verses, the word bhuta, being, is used in the sense of jiva. The word bhuta also covers the entire world jagat. When it is said that the jiva is created, sustained and destroyed, one should know that by jiva is meant an embodied being. The jiva, being non-separate from Atma, is never created or sustained or destroyed. So what is created, sustained, destroyed is only the subtle and the gross bodies. But the subtle and physical bodies, born of subtle and gross elements, are created, sustained and destroyed. So for the jiva, creation, sustenance and destruction are only with reference to these bodies. At the destruction of the entire jagat, which includes all bodies of all jivas, all jivas as well as the jagat become unmanifest. From this unmanifest state, when all these become manifest, that manifestation is called creation. As long as he does not recognize his identity with Ishvara, this process of manifestation and unmanifestation continues for the jiva. Maya jagadavyakta murtina tatam idam sarvam. The Lord says, this entire world is pervaded by me. There is an adjective to me Avyakta Murtina. A form or the truth of a given thing is called Murti. Avyakta Murti is a form that is beyond objectification. Something that cannot be objectified may be hastily construed as non-existent. So that there will be no such problem, Bhagavan has used the word Murti. Avyakta Murti is the one who exists and is available for appreciation. That is me, and by that me, this entire creation is pervaded. It is not Krishna's body that is pervading everything, but his real nature, Parobhava. That is the Swabhava, not the Swarupa. Right? So when Krishna says here Maya, by me, he uses the first person, and that refers to the real being, Sat Chit Ananda. By me, that is Brahman, which is Sat Chit Ananda, in the form of existence consciousness, not limited by time, space, or any object. This entire world is pervaded. Maya tatamidam sarvam jagat. Then matsthani sarva bhutani. Things that are born are called bhutas. Because they are born, they are subject to change. Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apa, Prithvi are all bhutas. Then, out of these bhutas, a number of systems, lokas, were born. And in any loka, there are many forms of physical bodies, each with their own subtle body, all made of the 5 elements, the Panchabhutas, according to our 5 elemental model. Out of these 5 bhutas, subtle and gross, come all the lokas and the embodied beings within them. Together, they are called Sarva Bhutani. Even the Ahankara is included in these bhutas. All thoughts are created and have their being in one uncreated Atma. Therefore, Krishna says, Matsthani Sarva Bhutani. All beings have their being in me. So that is the substratum in which everything else exists. All the Panchamahabhutas, the lokas, all the beings that are embodied beings that are born. And without me, there will be no being at all. Shankara says, anything without an existential status is not available for empirical transaction. Nahi niratmakam kinchit bhutam vyavaharaya avakalpate. He introduces this sentence to illustrate an important point. All beings, upon inquiry, prove to be mithya. Whenever you analyze any object, it is reduced to something else and is therefore purely nama rupa. If we stop here, there is only a void, shunya. If at the bottom of everything there is shunya, there will be no transaction, vyavahara at all. But because there is one thing that is, everything is understood as existent. Space is, time is, everything is. Such a beautiful paragraph which contrasts the way Buddhists, the Astikas, the Nastikas thought of everything as shunya. They just stopped at shunya. But then that is where Shankaracharya, when he had this argument with Mandana Mishra, he was wondering because the Buddhists were gaining ground and the Sanatana Dharma was kind of losing its importance. So that is when Shankara says, now who is it that is saying there is shunya? Who is that one who is saying there is shunya? That is the is. That is Atma. But then one may argue there are certain things which we understand as non-existent, like the rabbit's horn. Even so, the rabbit is existent. Only the horn is not existent. And even though the rabbit's horn is non-existent, how do you know of the non-existence of the rabbit's horn? This is very important to note. To know this, there must be a person who knows. That person who knows, Aham Asmi, I am. Then he uses a means of knowledge to know that rabbits do not have horns. That rabbits have no horns, purely a piece of knowledge, and to acquire that, there must be a means of knowledge. You cannot say it is perception because eyes can capture only form and color, not non-existence. They detect presence, not absence. So, the means of knowledge is not perception. Then how do you know that the rabbit's horn does not exist? It is not inference because all inference is based on perception. Nor is it a presumption. You do not arrive at the fact that rabbits do not have horns by presuming it from the fact that rabbits never hit you with their horns. You do not conclude rabbits do not hit me with their horns, therefore they do not have horns. It is not a knowledge born of perception or inference or presumption, but an independent means of knowledge called anupalabdhi, a negative means of knowledge based upon the knowledge you have. So what is anupalabdhi? It is a negative means of knowledge based upon the knowledge you have. You know what a rabbit is like, but you don't really see the absence of the horn. When you question whether a rabbit has horns, you determine that it does not have horns. That is arrived at by anupalabdhi, a means of knowledge employed by the person who is existent. He uses a means of knowledge to determine the fact that the rabbit has no horn. But the fact is, and the person who knows exists. Generally, this existence is considered an attribute of the object. We say, for example, this pot is existent. Here, existence becomes an attribute, which distinguishes this pot from an absent or a destroyed pot. This existent pot you will later call a destroyed pot. So when you say this is an existent pot, existent is used as an opposite to non-existence or destruction. Since there is such a thing as an absent or a destroyed pot, you can say this is an existent pot. The knowledge that you have of existence is always opposed to non-existence. The fact that it exists only means that it is not yet destroyed. This is how our buddhi grasps existence, and because of that, it is always an attribute imputed to an object. So we look at everything, like for instance, you're looking at an object, you know that it exists because you're aware also of its non-existence. So therefore, that becomes an attribute of that object. That existence becomes an attribute, whereas existence per se is not an attribute. Vedanta just reverses this orientation. In fact, its whole intent is only to dismiss this orientation. It says existence is not an attribute. It is unlike anything that we know. To this existence, it is the objects that are so-called attributes. Let us look at it in a simple form. Suppose I say this is a gold chain. Here, the gold becomes the attribute, the chain, the substantive. This is not a mere linguistic orientation. It reflects an orientation in my vision, my way of looking at the world and myself. It means that I see myself as a mortal being who is existent now, subject to aging, to time, and is going to be destroyed one day. All these are involved in this simple statement. In Vedanta, we reverse this vision. If you say gold chain, chain has the status of a substantive and the gold an attribute. Do you add some gold to the existing chain? If you do, it is a gold-plated chain, not a gold chain. I am talking of a gold chain. In fact, all that is there is gold. Chain being merely a nama rupa. This is an entirely different vision. The gold becomes existent, satya, and the chain becomes nama rupa, seemingly added to gold. Why seemingly? Any real addition should bring an addition to the gold. But here, I find the chain's appearance does not bring any addition or change to the gold. The gold substance, the swarupa, its weight and other properties remain the same. Even with the appearance of the chain, the gold retains its own nature. So, we say the appearance of the chain is a kind of addition, a seeming creation. We cannot totally deny a creation because we see the chain. Even so, it is only a seeming creation because there is no beginning of a substantive. The gold has been, the gold is, and the gold will be. There is no real chain at all. It is nothing but an incidental nama rupa attributed to the gold. Therefore, it is a sort of addition to the gold. If the gold could talk, it would say, all these gold ornaments, the gold chain, the gold bangle, gold ring, gold earring, gold nose ring, gold ring, all of them have their being in me. The existence of the chain is entirely dependent upon the gold. Therefore, in Vedantic language, we will not say gold chain, but chainy gold. I have to completely change my language just to express my vision. In fact, it is not really the language we have to change, but our vision. When I say gold chain, I must know that what I am saying is that the chain is gold. Similarly, if we say this entire creation is Ishvara, it means the creation is the attribute, Ishvara is the substantive, Vastu. Paramatma is Satya, and the entire creation is nothing but Nama Rupa. Therefore, Krishna says, Matsthani Sarva Bhutani, all beings are in that existence, which is I, the Atma. Sarva Bhutas include my body, my senses, all that I know, my ahankara, and even ignorance. Ignorance is, that is Atma, consciousness. The thought is, the knower is, seer is, hearer is, thinker is, thinking is, emotion is, memory is, this is, that is. Then anything that you say that is Atma. And that is, which is qualified by whatever you say, is itself unqualified. And that is, which is qualified by whatever you say, is itself unqualified. That is Atma, and therefore the statement Matsthani Sarva Bhutani is meaningful. Now it is clear what was meant by Maya Tatamidam Sarvam. Everything is pervaded by me. It means nothing is away from me. In anything that consciousness is the Atma. In any piece of knowledge, there is consciousness involved, and that consciousness is Sat Chit Ananda Atma. And it is avyakta because it is not an object. The means of knowledge we have can only bring the objects to light. But the object is, and that is yourself. This is something we appreciate not in the way we are used to, because the one who appreciates is also pervaded by the Atma. as is the knowledge of the object and the object itself. The Atma is self-evident, not an object that is to be known. First, the Lord said, by me all this is pervaded. Maya tatamidam sarvam. This means that the Atma is in every being. Next, by saying, all beings are in me. Vatsthani sarva bhutan. He completely changes the situation. In this particular expression, there is a potential problem. This was it was a lot of tarka, a lot of logic over here. I'll just read the last but one para, and then it is avyakta because it is not an object. The means of knowledge we have can only bring the objects to light. But the object is, and that is yourself. This is something we appreciate not in the way we are used to, because the one who appreciates is also pervaded by the Atma, as is the knowledge of the object and the object itself. The Atma is self-evident, not an object that is to be known. So we'll stop here. We'll just close our eyes, and whatever we can recollect and we share, let's share it. Maya tatamidam sarvam jagadyaktamurtina matsthani sarva bhutani nachaham teshvavastitaha. This entire world is pervaded by me, whose form cannot be objectified. All beings have their being in me, and I am not based in them.
That last sentence, like I am not based in them, it's kind of a little difficult to understand, but it means like what is substratum.
You mean the meaning of the sentence, meaning of the verse? Yeah, that is
The
what we'll come.
meaning is not like like he says, I understand the entire world is perverted by me, you whose form cannot be objectified. So that we can say all beings have their being in me. That's also okay. But and I am not based in them, meaning what?
Meaning he is not dependent on them. He is
Oh,
independent of them. That is the
oh,
meaning. I think we read this in chapter 7 or 8, I think, where
mm,
7, where we have a similar verse. So when he
mhm.
says, I'm not based in them, it is because his existence is independent of them. See, for example, in the
Right.
gold chain, the gold is Satya and the chain is Namarupa.
Mm,
The chain is dependent on the gold. The gold pervades in and through the chain. But the gold is independent of the chain. Whether the chain or the ring or the bangle exists, gold is,
mm.
isn't
Okay.
it?
Yeah,
So the
got it.
gold is not dependent on the Namarupa.
Yeah. When they said based, that I wasn't sure like
Uh,
that.
I
That
am not
meaning.
based in them. That is a literal translation, but the implied meaning is that
Yeah, in
Atma is
independent,
not
that
dependent. It is independent.
independent. Yeah, that's true. Got it. Thanks. Yeah,
Yeah.
obviously the whole, third verse was so easy to understand, but this one is like because they go
But
back and forth. And,
I remember last year when Nana was taking chapter 9, even
mm,
I had a lot of difficulty trying to understand how can it be? It is contradicting himself. I said, Bhagwan is contradicting. Nana was, how can, Bhagwan can never be kind of wrong. He is giving
wrong.
us, we only have to align ourselves to his buddhi. That is the clarity there, no? So
Yes, yeah, yeah.
last year I was still, and not that I'm
Mm,
advanced and all, but there is that little clarity that is dawning little by little. I think that's happening
yeah.
to each of us for certain. So
Yeah.
the meaning is this, that is the implied meaning.
Right,
I
right.
am
Got
not
it.
based in them. If you
Mm.
take it literally, then you'll say, oh, how can it be he's
Yeah.
pervaded? And he's saying he's not in them. But then I think it
Right.
is
Okay,
the
okay, got it.
existence part.
That makes sense. Like
Yeah,
independent of yeah. Okay.
right.
Right. There is another like this same thing uh I know all of like there is people don't recognize me or something like that he
Yeah, there's
mentioned.
a similar verse in either chapter 7 or 8. I don't
Right.
remember which one, but it's there. You're
Yeah.
right.
Right. So then that also we can understand, but
Yeah.
the way you mentioned is, and the yeastness also they made it so difficult to understand here. We would have when we did Atma Bodh, it was so easy to understand that part also.
Yeah.
But anyway, just good. That Murtina part, like when you say uh, this Abhyakta Murtina, that it's a form or truth of a given thing is called Murti. So, but Abhyakta Murti is a form that is beyond objectification.
Yeah.
So that's what, like it's kind of giving yes, yeah, that at the same time it's just no. So that's what I thought. Maybe you can explain it a little bit better, I think, because I'm getting a
Yeah.
direct feeling of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
That
Mhm.
Anupalabdhi, the reason why, see, if you go on, he starts off saying everything in the world is mithya. Everything that is created is mithya.
Mhm.
It is nama rupa, isn't it?
Mm. Right.
So when that is the case, then something avyaktam, the reason why he explained that Anupalabdhi and all that is because of that term avyakta murtina.
Mm.
Murti is something that you objectify. It's a form.
Form.
There's disturbance. I will just,
Mhm.
I think I will just, maybe, are you with your earphones? There is
No.
coming
No.
from, let me
Sorry.
just, maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
So, uh, avyakta murti is something which is non-existent. It is, let me say that the actual term was avyakta murtina is something which is not objectified. That is what he says. So here, avyakta murtina is a form that is beyond objectification. Something that cannot be objectified may be hastily construed as non-existent. So that is what the Nastikas did. The Nastikas, all the Buddhists and their lineage, they said, you can't see. I mean, Atma, they went on analyzing Nama Rupa, they went on and on saying this is the pot is, the pot can be destroyed. And therefore they came to the point of Shunya. They said, Atma is Shunya, Atma is non-existent, Atma is emptiness. So that is a hasty conclusion. So there he says, so that there will be no such problem, Bhagavan has used the word Murti. Avyakta Murti is the one who exists and is available for appreciation. And that is what is he's existing in that real nature, his parobhava. And that is what pervades everything. So in Shankaracharya, I think we read it in the previous chapters where he was having a dialogue with Mandana Mishra, one of the Buddhists, who was following the Buddhist Nastika philosophy. In that argument, he says, so when you say, where is the Atma? It goes on and on. I don't know the exact train of the argument, but then he says, see, there is no Atma. Atma is non-existent. It is Shunya. You cannot see Atma, therefore it is Shunya. But then Shankaracharya says, who says that it is non-existent. Who is that one that is saying that it is non-existent? That I that is saying it's non-existent, that is existence, that is Atma. And that is what Advaita is all about. So,
So this Parobhava,
ha,
Bhava, what is that? What is that thing?
Parobhava is his real nature. It is not as in his physical body is pervading everything, because he uses the first person. Maya tatamidam sarvam. It is not Krishna with his flute and his peacock feather that is
Right.
pervading all the Jagat. It is true nature, which is the Parobhava, the Swarupa of.
So this is another question that I had. Yeah, when we've been saying like perverted by me, right? So when we say that that God is in a, you know what I feel like it's in the mini form that is in all the, or it is the same form in everywhere.
Yeah,
As,
here when we think
as
of God as pervading everything, it is, I think how we have to understand it is his nature, which is Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Satchit, Ananda. In that form, he is pervading everything.
Okay. So
Isn't
like, because we are all so used to this seeing things, right? Like
yeah.
in this form of somewhere, like a nanometer or millimeter, like, what I'm saying, like in that sense. So it's in that form, avyakta murtina, even that is, uh, one is, he definitely cannot be like a pieces of him in each one of it. It's not like divided into like small particles and then get into everything, rather than his like you said, that nature, probably that is what it is. So he's not like any form or group or nothing like that, so he's just there everywhere. You see what I'm saying? Like if you take one thing and then you divide it into like very, very, very minute thing, that is how he's existing in all the forms, all beings, versus is one being there, and then there is this nature of him is in every form of it, everywhere, like on all beings. I mean, it just one of those things came to my head. Like, I always felt it like it's Angam. You know what they call Angam is like we are like part of the Angam of that
The
Murti.
organ,
Yeah.
yeah, the
You know
part.
what I'm saying? Yeah.
No, but that is what he has said. We are not part of Atma. We are Atma.
Mm.
In the previous shlokas, I not remember, I can't, I think in one of the eighth chapter shlokas, he says, we do not consider ourselves as part of the divine. We are not a fraction of the divine. It's not like the divine is one, you, me, everybody put together is the divine. No, you are the divine. There is only one that exists, and that is you. That is Atma. I mean, our Shastra exalts our understanding to the highest order. It
That
is,
makes sense, actually. Like, say, when you say you and I are the same, and that means or the Paramatma and Jivatma is as
the
one,
same.
then it must be the same thing.
Because here, Jiva here is not this Jiva, Matstani Sarva Bhutani. This Jiva here, Jiva is actually Atma, which is non-different from Atma. When they mean Jiva here, it is the embodied Jiva, which is got the subtle and the Stula Sukshma Shariras.
Right.
That embodied being has an existence, is created, sustains, and is destroyed. So when you say I'm part of the divine, again you are creating that Dvaita, isn't it? So that Atma runs in and through creation, and you, me, everybody here is that Atma. That is the truth that we have to recognize.
So it's
We
one
are
Atma. That's it.
one Atma, that's it. Non-dual. Non-dual. There is only one.
Yeah, but then when you're saying this way, like Paramatma and Jivatma, then it becomes like dual part, right? So
that's because we are reeling in ignorance. Therefore, we have this Jivatma.
Right. So that way, but then again, when even that one form of uniting, like this Atma and Paramatma, there isn't anything like that. It's just one Atma. That's it. But then when we are wording it this way,
it is because of creation. Because of creation, it as though appears that one Atma has become so many Jivatmas, Bhutas, all these Characharas, all the Bhutas, Lokas, all of that. They're all ultimately, if you break them down, they are only Nama Rupa.
Yeah, like especially in this one, where earlier it said, the first paragraph, that Atma is one, and then all this, that unmanifest is one, and then the manifest form is all the creation, because it comprised of this gross and subtle bodies and the Panchabhutas and stuff like that. So that is what involves the creation, maintenance, and the dissolution stuff. So that is all in this manifestation to unmanifestation and manifestation to manifestation. But then when this Atma is nothing, nothing happens. So that Abhyakta. That's what I think it came in the first paragraph.
Yeah. Should we, anybody else wants to share? We have about 7 minutes. We go to chapter 6. We'll read this one more time tomorrow, because this is all a little abstract, the isness and all that. And there's a lot of logic that Swamiji has brought it here. The Anupalabdhi, we've not touched upon that in our Manana today. Anupalabdhi, the rabbit's horn, the non-existence of the rabbit's horn versus Avyakta. We contrast that.
Like why he's dwelling on this rabbit horn, which is not existent. But I wasn't sure what the example is to.
Yeah, that is true.
Okay. Yeah, we can go to 6th chapter.
Are you able to see the screen?
Yes. That karma, kami, that,
Yeah. Fullness does not depend on anything. Sorry, fullness depends on nothing. We were doing the Apuryamana Machala Pratishtam, right? Previously it was pointed out that Atma is Parameshwara, Paramatma. Therefore, Paramatma is the Upama, the example for the person who comes to bear upon all situations with the fullness that is the nature of Atma. This particular interpretation is in keeping with the example of the river and the ocean in the 2nd chapter of the Gita. The verse says, Apuryamana pratishtam samudramapah pravishanti yatvat tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve Sashantimapnoti na kama kami. Apuryamana means fullness, that which is completely filled from all sides, like the ocean, samudra. Achala means that the ocean remains in its own glory and does not move around. Pratishta is that which is well rooted, meaning the ocean is well rooted in its own glory. And into this ocean, waters enter. Apa pravishanti from different directions. Is the ocean affected in any way by this event? Does the oceanness increase? No. And if no waters enter for a time because of drought, etc., the oceanness also does not decrease. Oceans do not dry up, nor do they overflow. Such situations simply do not occur. Fullness depends on nothing. This example is a good one in terms of the fullness that is the nature of Atma. The example holds water, in other words. Whether the waters enter or do not enter, the ocean always remains the same. It is always oceanness because oceanness does not depend upon any other source of water to be ocean. Is there any disturbance? Or is it clear?
Yeah, I do hear some noise like that.
There, no? Yeah, okay. 1 second. No? Yeah, I just came to another place. So, it is always ocean is because oceanness does not depend upon any other source of water to be ocean. Similarly, here, the yogi, a wise person, who is Ananta, does not depend for his or her fullness upon a given situation. Whatever happens, sukha or dukkha, the person sees them both equally. Therefore, he or she remains tranquil. Sashantim apnoti. Whatever objects kamas enter from whatever direction through the gates of the 5 sense organs, they do not disturb the person at all, just as the ocean is not disturbed by the waters. What a lovely state to be there. Whatever objects kamas enter from whatever direction through the gates of the 5 sense organs, they do not disturb the person at all, just as the ocean is not disturbed by the waters. Whereas the person who is a desirer of various objects, kama kami, who is dependent upon their presence or absence for his or her happiness, is likened to a pond. We actually read this yesterday, but it's worth going through again because it is if too much water comes in the form of rain or floods, you do not see the pond at all. And if there is no rain, it dries up altogether. Similarly, the kama kami is like a yo-yo. If something desirable comes along, he or she goes up. And if it is something undesirable, the person goes down. However, for the yogi discussed here, there is no yo-yo because he or she remains with me, the self alone. Whatever the tragedy, even if it meets the classical orthodox definition of a genuine tragedy, the person remains the same. This is the yogi Krishna is discussing here in keeping with the previous verse. Thus, there are 2 interpretations possible here. The yogi remains the same in any situation, whether it be sukha or dukkha, and the yogi looks upon others as he or she looks upon himself or herself. This being so, the person will not perform a wrong action. To treat others as you would have them treat you is applicable to everyone. In fact, every human being is supposed to live this way. What to talk of a yogi? I think we'll stop here. I know we stopped here yesterday also, but we'll just close our eyes and think about, reflect upon this beautiful verse and the meaning. Apuryamana machala pratishtam samudramapa pravishanti yadvat tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sashanti mapnoti nakama kam. And we'll close here for today. We'll take it up again tomorrow. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Jai Gurudev.